In this Unplugged episode, we go guestless and strip down to cover the key topics and takeaways from the AGC Tech Conference. With no outside voices to tether us, we take a deep dive into the IT side of construction technology and discuss how GCs are managing and implementing solutions on their job sites. It was a fun conversation, so pull up a seat, grab a drink, and let's talk tech.
And we're live. Just three dorks dorking around, baby. This is an episode. We have no guests. Y'all might notice that. We just needed to get together. Jonathan, I got to see you in Chicago, but Travis, it seems like forever, my man.
It does.
It won't be too long though, right? It won't be too long.
Not
Uh
too long. Not too long. We'll bump into each other on the road here pretty soon.
Oh, I don't know about you, but I'm doing my curls for conference season here. I'm getting
Yep.
ready, getting loosened up. I
A
hope everybody
stretch.
out there is getting loosened up. And I know that it is that time because Jonathan and I were just on the stage at the AGC Innovation and Technology Conference in the wonderful city of Chicago, which has 3 months of the year where it is absolutely beautiful. And this was one of them. So it was awesome to see you there. I'll start. Jonathan, what do you got?
Well, while we were there, I ran into our bestest of friends, Kevin Suhu. And Kevin got me Habiki by Suntory Brewers. He got me the Blender's Choice, which I had with him at a conference, man, probably 3 years ago in Seattle. I got to get one drink of it at one of the whiskey bars we went to that just happened to have it. And he immediately saw it on the shelf when we were at the whiskey bar. He's like, that's what I'm getting you. And it is just that, I like scotch. I like peaty scotches. This for Suntory is not a scotch. This is their bourbon. This is their, I hate, like, he's going to get mad at me, but like Wild Turkey 101's a really good bourbon. All right. This is like, and it's always is, it's like supported. This is like somewhere in between the Wild Turkey 101 that I love and like Isla scotches that I love, but without all the peatiness. It's really got a lot of body to it, but it is like, if there was a Japanese American bourbon,
That's it.
it's
That would be
the
it.
Blender's Choice.
Boys, the one thing we haven't done, we should be cataloging this. I'm sure
Yeah, we
John
probably
can run
should.
an AI chatbot against
I
this.
will run a search. I'll just run a
Yeah.
search.
Run a
right.
search and find it all. But yeah, and Kevin, don't get too mad. We'll plug Ignite while we're here so that
Yeah.
so you don't get mad
Yeah.
at Jonathan calling names
Got to
at
pay
that.
for
But
that bottle somehow.
we'll pay for that bottle. So that bottle's brought to you by Ignite. Travis, what do you got today, brother?
I stayed local and I went with a beer. This is Generations Brewing here in Freeport, Illinois. It's a Hellas Lager. Just a nice, not like Trent likes with the IPAs and whatever. It's a very malty, more of a malty lager. I'm looking forward to not only conference season that we'll talk about here in a little bit, but it's one of my favorite beer times of year as we approach Oktoberfest and all those Marzen style beers come out. Like I just love them. Like that, I could go nuts on them. What
Those
are
are
you drinking,
ones
Jeff?
those are ones I can get into. And hey, Travis has a cold Great Lakes Brewing IPA in there
Yes.
in honor of Trent. None of us is going to open
No.
it because,
No.
well, why would you do that unless
Right.
you're Trent,
They're
right?
terrible.
Ugh, that's terrible. But we have it for you, Trent. We're thinking of you, brother.
Yeah.
And he's out having an awesome time. We've seen some cool pictures, man. So I hope you enjoy the vacation, bro. Um, me, I'm going with a classic Woodford. Just a Woodford Reserve, my favorite go-to. I make my old fashions with it, but I just decided tonight it's just us three hanging out, put it on the rocks, keep me slow and low and going. So yeah, I'm excited. This is it's the kickoff to conference season, and I know it is because the AGC Innovation and Technology Conference, the IT Con, as it were called, in the past, is always kind of my wake up call to, here we go. But man, Jonathan, I mean, this was your first, right?
Oh, very much my first, and I think we joked about it a little bit that, like, if you're gonna pick 2 people that I'm in tension with, pick general contractors and IT professionals, right? Like, as generally a trade guy and more of a construction tech guy, like, these are the people that, like, most of the time, my job is to argue with you. But boy, was that not the conference. That was not an argumentative conference. That was a very, very supportive conference that I mean, we went there, Jeff, and we did the questions. We polled the audience, we polled the room. We started to get an understanding of like what they're interested in, and there was a disconnect from where we are in the trades and in fabrication and in that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are they how disconnected are they? Then Benjamin Crosby gets up, breaks down one of his job sites and all the tech he's using there, and I'm like, oh, okay, no, we're all brothers here. This is all the same. It's
We can be
just they
friends.
just didn't mention it right away. But yeah, really different conference, really different people. I mean, I think for me, like with a little bit of that tension, this was helpful from an empathy standpoint. Like I now feel a little bit more of their pain on the security side, feel a little bit more of their pain on, I'm going to say on the customer support side, because again and again, like when you boil down some of the conversations that were going on to the side, it was about getting the users to engage, about getting users to show some discipline, about getting users to have sort of training delivered in a way that they can truly, you know, understand. Uh,
Can I tug on that for a second because
yeah, go
you
for it.
you you make me think about something. They would have a unique position, largely because a lot of that group are not self-performing, right? So they're trying to provide all that stuff to a third, a bunch of third-party entities, right? So dig into that a little bit more. I kind of want to hear what some of those conversations were like. How do you roll out whatever project management system to 26 subs who really, I mean, yes, you hold a contractual agreement with them, but like they're not your people.
you, the one thing that I heard that was really good about that, because I got to say, I think as a tradespeople, we are often I don't want to call us the victim, but we're on the receiving end. All right.
Hmm.
So the fact that their discussions were all about how to make this work better for us. And like a lot of the apps, a lot of the solutions that they were looking at were about this connective tissue that should be there, that's going to allow people like us to use our own software
Hmm.
suites, to
Hmm.
use our own solutions, to use our own processes, and then how to support that in a safe way. And there are times when you're on a job and you're being asked to use weird software that you're not used to, that's not your favorite software to begin with, that you're like, why do they do this? And I think a lot of the conversations where they're like, okay, we have to look at what people are capable of using, and we have to balance that with the people that are on this specific job, and then we have to socialize it. I heard socialize it a number of times. We have to make sure that people understand it. We can't go training new people every time they walk on the job site, so we have to really make this something that's organic there. But the amount of thought, the amount of talking that I heard about around really getting that buy-in on the job site, I think was refreshing for me. Like I really was happy that that much thought's going on, that much work's going on. So I mean, Jeff, did you hear around that topic? Were you hearing similar conversations?
So yeah, absolutely. And just to give like anybody that I know, Travis has been in the past, and now Jonathan's been there. This was my first conference of my construction technology career. Like this is the gateway drug for me that opened me up to the fact that like other IT professionals, and then eventually construction tech was there. It was the AGC IT, like literally, it was for IT people originally. We've tried to expand it. Truth and transparency. I'm on the steering committee. We are calling it innovation and technology, but there is a solid group of IT people, and I think it needs to stay there because, John, exactly what you're talking about. We come at this from such a different angle, right? So many construction technologists are looking at their company, looking at what they have to do, looking at the tools, looking at innovation. But IT looks at it from a scalability, support, adoption, security perspective.
Right.
So it brings this difference. And I'm trying to quickly in the back pull something up, but you hit it. We do this thing called the affordable solutions, which is exactly when John arrived.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, John, you arrived for my 100% favorite session.
And you know, that session was really good, and for those of you obviously that weren't there, what we did is we had people, you know, we looked for a problem, and then we said, okay, what are people using to solve this problem that they're enjoying using? Like what's getting positive feedback? And when you do that on our side, it's all about the fabrication software. It's all about, you know, construction tech. It was really interesting. And I think, you know, you mentioned Ignite and Suhu. They have one of the tech that I think crosses between the two. I know construction technologists use Ignite because there is functionality that specifically targets construction technologists and how they distribute files, track files, versioning, everything else. But it is more of an IT, like those decisions are the decisions that I would hand to my IT staff, not my CT staff, nine
Yep.
times out of 10. So, you know, I mean, I think that when you were up there and we were talking about that, what I saw come up as solutions a lot of times were not the things that I would have picked as a construction tech guy.
Right. And
Um,
that's the interesting thing is what that started as is like way back in its heyday. And we had Rob McKinney back, which is awesome. Rob
Oh,
closed us
awesome.
down at the end. If you guys have not seen and you're listening, and any of your associations or peer groups or whatever need something on apps for mental health and awareness, talk. Rob's is awesome. His new one. But what we did is Rob introduced this apps thing like 12 years ago and almost got killed by the committee for like, shadow IT. And now fast forward, it is our biggest session where basically what we do is we open it up, we have open microphones, and we offer to the crowd, do you have a problem you haven't solved and you need help? Have you found a tool over the last year that you just need to tell everyone about? And this is the one, this is my bring home from all of this, Jonathan, and I want to start playing with it now is Scribe How.
oh yeah.
It dude, Travis, you get to be the reaction one to this because he's already seen it. It automatically documents your SOP with screenshots and steps, and it's
Oh,
a
wow.
browser plugin. So if you're using, to John's point, right? Like how many places do you go and you have to use new software? And you're like,
Right.
how do I do this? What's the SOP for going through this process? If you have your SOP documented, you can use ScribeHow's plugin. And when they're in Procore or whatever they're in, it will walk them through it.
So it isn't
Wow.
that, Jeff? How many times have you seen me on stage with fab shop people saying, "Hey, what's your fab process? Is it in front of the people doing the assembly? Because if it isn't, it's in the wrong spot." And now you
Right.
have IT professionals saying, "What's your process? We'll put it in front of the people as they're doing it." I loved that tool too. I think that was my biggest, from a tool standpoint, that was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
You know what my biggest takeaway though was? I would say 50 to 75% of the questions they asked, the answer for me, for construction tech, for Jeff Elwell, for the people that we know that sort of have, I'm going to call it mature technology departments, was we have a programmer that does that. We have a programmer that does this spot solution. And if you had asked similar questions to the trade organizations, half of them would be like, "Oh no, we built a plugin for that. We built a plugin for this," because a lot of them were these edge cases. And it was interesting to see that on the edge cases side, from a tradesperson's perspective, and yeah, we're living on the bleeding edge of technology and all that. With the people we talk to, we're like a small group, but we would go with a programmer a lot where they would go with finding a solution in the market. So it was interesting. I ended up having a lot of discussions, Jeff, like when we were out and about like, hey, how do you keep track of those solutions? Because if you're going to end up with a lot of point solutions, keeping track of cost, who's on it, how long they're on it, are the updates done for security, becomes like a central function of what IT now
Right.
needs to do. Where, you know, they used to be like, oh, we'll support Office 365 and catch everything. Now it's like, and 500 other apps that you need to do small little things throughout this, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yes, that was Scribe was awesome. Did you agree? Do you agree? You've been in both conferences. I feel like we like to homebrew more than them. I don't know if we got there over time or how it happened, but feel like we're homebrewers and they like buying domestic and imports.
I would honestly say that's actually just a pretty much a snapshot of where we are as an industry, right? There is so much software that is very focused on the GC. And that room
Right.
is extremely GC. I mean, the cool part about what we did, Jonathan, was we did this cool polling of the audience and a big discussion. Like, I don't know about you, but first of all, there was a ton of really good content and like case studies and um panels where they've been through things. Like Suhu had a panel and Jay Schneider had, I think it was him and one other person. I was bummed I couldn't get in that room. It was standing room only, about like how to grow your career as an IT person. Like, how do you do that? But for me, I don't know, we've moved kind of past that and moved to this. I want to interact. I want to talk to the crowd. You and I, and we've been around long enough that it's really about what do they care about now? What things can we help with? And so it was really cool for us to have that conversation, but it really came out in that data that they're general contractors mainly in that room. And if you look at the tech landscape, it is very focused on general contractors and not
Yes.
on trades. And I think the trades have been sort of kind of forced to homebrew. Like, by it's kind of like this, Travis. If all we could buy was IPA, you and I'd be brewing our own beer.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. Well, and I mean, we're the specialty trades too. What we do is much more specialized, right? So that you it does make sense that we would need a special set of tools, and beyond that, all the special every specialty trade does behave a little bit differently. Even though, as we've talked about many times at the MEP Innovations Conferences, we're all solving similar problems, but everybody wants to do it slightly differently in their own way. So it lends itself to more home brewing. And like you, to your point, like Jeff, there's just not the same marketplace out there.
I think there will be, though. I mean, I think that's
Yeah,
the kind of the interesting part, is that, like, once a market gets saturated, economics and opportunity pushes you to find the next opportunity. And I think a lot of eyes are opening, especially because, we beat a dead horse about the labor shortage, but we're really headed for a cliff. And
Significantly.
ultimately, we're going to have to do something
right.
to mitigate that problem. And John, I hope you found this, because I mean, Benjamin Crosby, I'm going to give you a plug here. He did
I
not
was gonna
ask me
say
to do this.
my favorite was Benjamin's. Now it was context, so I think that's cheating. At an IT convention, and context obviously going to win, but
Yeah, but hey, listen, just so you guys know, Benjamin Crosby, Yates Construction, former BIM and VDC, head of BIM and VDC for them, but honestly was offered what I think very few people would take, was the opportunity to take his BIM and VDC expertise and go run a mega project. And he's now deployed on a mega project. And so basically, he's eating his own dog food. And
right.
he did a recap of a plan it, build it, do it, all the technology, what was prescribed by the contract, what they used because of their choices, what they saw from their trades. And he kind of went through it. And John, the one thing I gleaned from, the thing that I gleaned the most, that I want every trade listening to know, is your GCs can tell how technologically advanced you are by how good the information and how accurate the information you give them is.
yeah, yeah,
That stood out to me, not just in his session and a couple others, but in that session on the main stage. I was like, that's like the advertising for trade contractors to really get
Right.
their digital act together.
You know what was interesting? After he was done talking, I called up the trade contractor that he was working with that he highlighted because they were using Stratus for all their fab management. And he was looking at like a digital or a data version of their fabrications that were going to hit his mega project.
Hmm?
So I called up the person who's over at MMC, Jason, and I was like, hey, they just featured your project. And he's like, I don't think that was mine. And that right there says a lot about where we're at in the trades. Is we're not building the technology so that we can look good to the guy outside us. And sometimes we don't even know they're looking. But boy, man, I would say Benjamin was the most happy with that sub because he even said it. That's why I'm saying it is because
Well,
he said it. That was a killer sub for him. That's what he wants and that's what he expects. And we're talking about one of the trades that has really taken the time to build out that next level fab shop. So like they want us to be that top level of trade, and there's a lot that goes into that, man.
we were seeing some of that stuff when I was, when I was still with the Helm group, like those all those things that you did for yourself to make yourself better, right? Just to be good at what you do. They start to become differentiator, and then eventually sales points that you put into your pitch decks when you go into things, because yeah, you don't think that anybody's paying attention, but they notice when you can give them accurate counts, when you can tell them exactly where their fab is, when everything is streamlined communication, when you are doing so well in coordination that you kind of end up taking over. They recognize that kind of stuff.
Well, and just, they realize you're not like,
Right.
and this wasn't some sort of like mega integration where they were like
No.
diving in. It was just reporting, just
Mhm.
really, really solid reporting that's accurate. And it's amazing because, I mean, to me, Yates is one of those progressive. I mean, just to take a BIM and VDC person and push them onto a mega project, that's progressive, right? They might be considered not so progressive in some respects, but when I dig into where they're at and what the decisions they've
They're
made,
really
they're
progressive.
progressive. And it's showing that in the mega projects, they value so much the accuracy of the information, the accuracy of the data that they're willing to highlight it. They're willing to show it off. And I mean, that there's no better way to sell your technology transformation than to show that it's going to drive business. It
Yeah.
drives value, it drives relationships, it drives, it reduced risk. It's crazy. And we saw that all across
Oh, yeah.
the IT forum. Now, however, we do got to talk about the one thing that didn't line up, John, is cybersecurity is off the charts when you poll this group. Not necessarily when we poll other groups.
You know, hopefully after the season, because we're collecting data, right? We're collecting data for these surveys and everything. Hopefully after the season, we could share this because we also found out some fun things like, when they identify the problems with security, it's often people. When you look at where they're spending their money on, is it on training those people? Maybe not so much.
Maybe
Though
not.
they did give us some wonderful, fantastic solutions for that. It wasn't always their top priority
No.
fiscally. Show me where your money is was not always in line. One thing before we leave Benjamin that I just feel like we have to say too, if you think that your GC is going out there and going out with salesmen and making deals to pick the software that is at work on their job site, you're just wrong. You know what they are? They're really good at it is what it is. We will adapt. So the owner wants something, they adapt. The trade worker wants something, they adapt. I mean, what I saw up there on stage was somebody who had a process to their adaptation. Benjamin had a process to adapt to these things that come at the general contractor, and it was impressive. I can't remember what his exact acronym was. You're gonna have to I'm gonna feel bad. I'll maybe put it in the show notes. But he had an acronym where he's like, "Hey, here's how I review them when I'm reviewing." And I was like, "You have a process for when somebody has made you adapt to something that you don't even want." I was like, "That's
Well,
great."
and I forget which integration, and I'm really sorry because I'm sure there's a company I want to plug out there about their integration, but they built Project Site. It was a
Oh yeah.
Project Site
Oh
integration
yeah.
that they built,
Yep.
and it cost a lot of money. I mean, it was not cheap, but ultimately, it way more than paid for itself in accuracy and in somebody would have had to do it, right? And you put a body in that and just do the math. It's going to be way more than that integration was. And they said, okay, we need it. Okay, we're going to do it. Okay, we're going to test it. And they went ahead and did it. And this is also, by the way, the beauty of a mega project.
Yeah. And,
This is
and
the beauty of it. What I want is it's like the beauty of being able to buy the big robot, right? One robot's expensive. 5,000 robots get cheaper. one integration can be expensive, many can be cheaper. So hopefully that's some of the
Well,
backlash of the mega project integrations that we're seeing.
you were talking about all the benefits they got from the integration. I think that we have this conversation. We fight about it all the time with the ROI conversation. Is especially even IT folks, because they've been beaten down for so long with their spend and what it's costing and everything like that. That again, we've been terrible about expressing true ROI, and I think that what you're seeing in more of these innovation conferences as and we're talking about it for MEP innovations as in, well, Jeff, actually you're doing your fight club too, as the people like us that have started to grow up through the ranks of companies like that. That innovative mindset has come along. Like, I don't need to see this is going to pay for itself in 2.5 years. I know intrinsically this is saving me money and making things easier. I don't care if it costs me $1 million. I can write that check.
Yep. And ROI to me is a let's just say we can make the numbers say anything we want,
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
right? You know what I mean? Like the
I
math
think
ain't
it's
good.
good accountability though, right? It's good accountability. Like at
It's
each
a good
point you should,
exercise to go through.
yeah.
I
I
A good
mean,
I
it's a
I
good
don't
but
even
exercise.
know. I don't even know if it really is. I had a guy on Dylan that talked about return on implementation, making it easier, making it better, making it faster, measuring some of that. Um, because again, it's great that I can sit down and sort of take some of those numbers, Travis, and think about what a human inputting it is. But what I can never calculate is the mistake that they didn't make
That's what I've
because
been
it's
saying for years too.
computerized.
Yep.
I,
And that ROI could be anything from $1 to 1,000,000.
yeah,
I don't
I,
know.
I, I agree with that. I would also give a shout out to Nathan Wood um, and the CPC about what they're doing with process. I, it makes sense for trade contractors. We do see it, but for a general contractor, it makes so much more sense to have a book full of processes for software versus software solutions because you don't get to pick. You do not get to pick. So if you have that process, it was referenced several times with sort of change management, with building the internal like interconnecting tissue. Um, it was really interesting to see. So again, if you guys out there don't know who the CPC is and are looking to implement new software, go out and look Nathan up. Start really engaging because what I saw at the AGC was sort of some of the fruits of what that organization's been bringing, which is strong process that is agnostic to solution, and that doesn't happen very much. But Jeff, I interrupted you, and I feel
No,
so
no,
bad
it's
because
okay though, because
you
I love the plug. Go to constructionprogress.org. And by the way, another plug to Benjamin because Nathan, Benjamin used the CDX terminology
yes.
multiple times in
Yes.
his presentation. And before we move on to what I was talking about too, I got to get everybody ready. So we're gonna do a little fun here. We're gonna have do 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 do. It's the AI circus. It's the AI circus. Do, 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 do. But actually, I digress because honestly, I mean, AI is a bit of a circus. Let's be honest. There's a lot of talking heads out there right now. And I don't know who else you saw, Jonathan, but I saw Nate Fuller.
Mhm.
Awesome. Nate is doing so much great work on grounding AI. He's doing a lot of research with the AGC. Like the real thing we need is grounded research. And then of all things, Usman showed up, the new CEO of Bluebeam, and Jonathan and I sat front and center to
Yeah,
look at AI ethics.
yeah.
And that was a gutsy one to go out and do.
You know what though? He gave me a lot of ammo because I have to design AI systems for people, and one of the things that's really tough to explain is why you don't want to use the same solution for every question. And he's talked about the laws, and in Europe, the types of AIs that we talk about when we're talking about AI, man, they're like talking to a person. It's indeterminate. If I ask Jeff, "How's your day going?" He's gonna give me a different Even if it's the same day, even if it's within 5 minutes, he's going to give me a different answer.
Depends on how
And
many, you know, how far
yeah,
down we are.
our software is the same way that we're talking about often when we talk about AI. And what he was talking about are these indeterminate systems where 2 plus 2 doesn't necessarily equal 4. And what he said is before, and we've talked about being the difference between being data informed and data driven. He's like, hey man, be AI informed. Don't be AI driven. And he said, in order for the way that the laws are stacking up, which I loved because I didn't know this, they want to put a human being at the point of decision making when you have an indeterminate system. So if you have something that's not going to give you a straight 2 plus 2 equals 4 answer that isn't a calculator,
Mhm.
okay, then we need a human there. And someone, not someone, but a lot of people have had the guts to go and make that into law. And he's been following this, what, since 2016, which is like, I did my back check in my brain, like the original transformer architecture that runs behind the large language models that we use today was 2016. So he's been out there kicking the bushes for learning models and AI and data mining for a lot of years now. And it was great to hear him talk. It was great to hear him in person. Jeff, I wish next time he does that, all I want him to do is sit there and answer questions and
Let
just
us
let us assault you with questions.
let us assault you. I mean, he is an advisor to DARPA. Like
Yeah. The
we're not talking on a low level here. Oh, sorry. Hold on a second. Thank you. Service with a smile.
That's
Um,
right.
you better tip.
yeah, right. Oh man. To me, that was the coolest part, John, is when he said, you asked him, like, what are some of the guiding principles? And he just said, listen, if you're ever automating what a human decision and not including the human, you really have to look at that. That's a stopping point. And
Yeah.
the whole room, but I'm with you, man. Like, it took a second to get that room asking questions. I mean, honestly, having you and I in there and like being ready to ask those questions, like I was like, wow, I want to. He could just say, okay, open it up. This is my name. This is my experience. Let's go. And we
I,
could
I
ask questions all day.
I think that would be helpful. It was interesting to see what they're doing with it. I think I have this model that I use when I think about learning models, and it's called BizML, and it's very structured. Boy, that guy gave me that structure back without that structure 3 times during his speech. 3 times during his speech, he explained to people how to properly ask for machine learning because that's what it's about. You have to ask, what is it going to predict? What's the data it's going to predict on? And what are the results of that prediction? Is it going to hurt somebody? Is it not going to hurt somebody? Is does it have to make an ethical decision? And I think the fact that he broke it down that way and really made it sort of something that you can walk away with, I think was really good. That was one of my favorites. But Jeff, that's not what I interrupted you on. I
No,
interrupted
it's
you
not.
on literally the elephant in the room at every single step of that conference, which
Every
was
step.
security.
Cyber security. Um, First and foremost, we started it off with an awesome tabletop exercise, which, by the way, if you have never done a tabletop exercise, you really need to do it. It has been called lots of things over the years, war games, uh, blue team, red team, whatever you want to call it. But honestly, it is really about not just looking at the fact that when you get hacked or you could get hacked or deploying cybersecurity, deploying antivirus, deploying firewalls, all those things. It's, are you ready for the moment to react? And most people don't actually do the role play. And man, it was a throwback because I forgot. Like I went through it. Jonathan, you didn't get a chance to see this, but they opened up with this tabletop exercise where they produce a scenario. They take a couple people from the crowd, each one of you plays a role. They produce a scenario. The scenario was one I've lived through. Like literally, ITSD, I've been through
Mhm.
this. Everything about it was, you think you might be hacked. It's just one file. It's an entire system. Everything's out. Like everything we lived through. But how do you react? How do you go through it? And cybersecurity continued to be at the forefront of just about every question, everything. Common big problem, right? Multi-factor authentication, MFA.
Mhm.
How many people are, it's annoying, and call and try and get it turned off. By the way, the guys talked about it that did the opening. It's like 90% of the hacks are through the one account that you turned MFA off for.
AT&T's, was it AT&T's with Snowflake? The one that was just huge with Snowflake,
Yeah.
literally Snowflake, which is a database that holds all your data and delivers it faster. Is like, hey, they didn't have dual factor authentication on. Do you really want to get mad at us? Because that's like I mean, there's things you have to do to sit at the table. That's the first thing you need. I
Right.
am so the dentist though. I hired somebody locally to break into my company, and it was like going to the dentist where I'm like, I'm gonna brush my teeth real quick though. So before I give you all the
That's
information you're asking,
that's
I'm gonna
right.
go turn on dual authentication everywhere and move my domains to a more secure environment. So you don't even need to hire the security guys, people out there. You just need to say you're gonna hire them to yourself, and then go brush your teeth really hard.
Yes, but there's two types of penetration testing that you can do.
Yeah.
One that's going to give you a pass, one that's actually going to help you figure out where your problems are. I've been through both, and it's very interesting because we took our company through one and we passed with flying colors because we needed to. And then we did it again and we got our asses handed to us. There was stored SQL passwords, there was, firewalls that had, their backdoor admins were not changed, etc. So, you really want to hire the one that does it. But remember, I said it's not paranoia if they're actually after you. And that brings us to, we don't usually do news articles, but we're going to do a little bit of one because this came out yesterday. For me, I read it. For the record, 2:39 p.m., August 15th, 2024. Hackers may have stolen the social security numbers of every American. So 2.9, a notorious hacking group has claimed to have stolen 2.9 billion social security numbers. And they released it for free in an online marketplace for stolen personal data. It's social security numbers and other sensitive data, and it could result in the largest raft of identity theft, fraud, and other crimes that we've ever seen. So we tried to get our boy Nick Espinosa on. Unfortunately, we couldn't make things connect, but he will be covering it. So listen, you don't go to us for this to learn about this stuff. You go to Nick, you go to the experts. The one thing
We
I
will.
have learned is I can tell you that you need cybersecurity. Nick can tell you what you actually need. It's like there is a difference, by the way, folks. There's a reason CISOs exist, chief security
Yes.
officers, chief
Mhm.
information security officers. But this is huge. I mean,
Yeah,
2.9 billion. That we don't have 2.9 billion people in this country. What are we at? Like, how many people are in our country now?
600
Somebody
million.
Google it. 600 million,
it's
right?
no, it's like, well, it depends on who you're counting.
Who you're
That might
counting?
be high. India was the highest,
Yeah, India is like 1.5
I
billion,
want to
right?
say it's like 320 million people.
something like that. Somebody
345
asked
million
the AI.
people.
Okay, cool. So I was way high. I was way high. I I gotta say, when I first heard this, I had actually. So I don't know if you guys know the bank PNC. I hate to use a
I
name, but
do
I'm gonna use a
PNC
real
Bank.
name.
Yeah, I
Okay.
do.
So the default login username for your PNC account is your social security number.
Yeah.
That's the default. And a lot of older companies or more historic companies have that. Like mine is not that, because I sat down with somebody once and they're like, hey, add 12 characters to that because this is your bank account. Um, but like in a real way, social security numbers historically are well documented where they are usernames, and it's a
Dude.
lot of government, and it's a lot of
They're
banking, it's a
everywhere.
lot of financial.
Well, and I will tell you as somebody who's been through a password reset recently, a lot of times that's the qualifying piece.
Right,
Now, the
right.
interesting thing is I went through this with a really solid bank. What was interesting is I am who I say I am. So I am trying to get into my own account that is locked, and it still would not let me in because I needed a combination of things that I wasn't getting right. And so I had to call up, and the person had to take me through 9 different things, and she flipped things on me, and it was really funny because I was like, "You are really well-trained customer service to prevent social engineering." And she's like, "How do you know about social engineering?" And I'm like,
Like,
"That's a longer story, but well done." Because the things have to match. But
right.
in the older systems, John, if they know your name and they know your social security number, they can reset your password.
And this takes me over to what Nick said that his first talk that I ever went to. All right, he's talking about his 10 laws, and 5 laws. It's 5 laws, isn't it? Nick's gonna smack me around now, but one of the things that I was like is like, oh, I have this throwaway password that I use for all these sites that I don't care about. And he explained this story of how they hacked into this person using their Facebook account and all their social accounts and all those accounts that they didn't think were important. So your little Starbucks account that you were using the cheap password on also has your name, your address, and all these other things. So like now that the social security number is out there, they're going to be looking for ways to dual authenticate that. And you got to look at all these cheap, easy things where you have easy passwords and say, what's my exposure there? Like,
Yep.
and Nick drove that home when I came back. My wife, bless her heart, like, and that's a true bless her heart, not a Southern bless her heart. Um, that's the Northern version where it's like she actually had a good idea, not the Southern version, like, oh, she's an idiot. Um, she was like, "Hey, listen, we got to look at this. Like, he's scared me good enough that we have to look at that." And we were so vulnerable. We were
Yep.
so vulnerable. So
Yep.
I realize I'll always be
Everything's a web, right?
vulnerable.
It is the World
Yeah.
Wide Web. Everything connects, and if you don't think you're exposed on this end, but there's a little thread that will connect back in, they can trace it
Hey,
back.
Now a
Travis,
couple things. Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead, John.
were you guys? Did you what's have you had to deal with hacking in the positions that you've had? Because you've done the contact. I got ransomware once. I got the I love you bot virus when I was at another company. The I love you virus where you could go to your boss and say, "Never open that again. No one loves you." Which was my favorite line ever delivering as an IT person. Was, listen, if there's an email that says I love you, don't open it because
Nope,
no one
nobody
loves
loves
you.
you.
Nobody
But
loves you.
Travis, did you ever
I,
have to deal with it?
I've been fortunate enough that most of the time it has been very isolated. In my previous life, working on software development, you would have and this was early on. Like this is really early on where people didn't even think twice before clicking a link in an email. So you would get somebody's hard drive wiped or locked up and stuff. So fortunately, it's been pretty lucky there. In the contact world, you know, again they had pretty robust systems. So maybe something would sneak in, but they were able to quarantine it quickly and nuke it basically for lack of better words. But the one thing that was surprising when I got more and more involved with the IT side or with the contact side is as I got bu- peeking behind the curtain of these large organizations, like just the sheer volume of constant attacks. Like they are, I mean,
Yeah.
it just take like pings, like just millions of pings a day on ports, just trying to sniff for that one that's open.
Mhm.
Millions of brute force password. Like it was just astounding. Um, and yeah, obviously we have systems that prevent this, but they're also generating systems to try to work around our system. So it's like just to again the sheer volume of attempts at everything. That to your point earlier, Jonathan, like if there's any sort of vulnerabilities anywhere, like there's probably somebody looking for it, or they know how to get to it. They just haven't gotten to yours yet.
Yeah, just to break it down, like the ping technique Travis is talking about, imagine it's the burglar that actually has the digital capability to check every window, every door, every sliding glass door, every garage door, everything. They do it digitally. And just because you're some obscure company in nowhere land, you're out there on the web. You've got a street address. They're coming. They're tapping away at everything. They're just tap, 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 tap till they go, oh, look, the door's open. We're going to go through. And it might not be you, right? It might not be you thereafter. We talked about this one. There's a new rush on something called subscription bombing. This is a wild one. So this is where hackers do something, but to get your attention to go somewhere else, they release a bot that goes and signs your email address up to all of these subscription sites in the world. And so you start getting emails. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for subscribing. The whole thing is to draw your attention away. So you're a construction company, you're in the middle of doing something. All of a sudden, the AP person's just getting crushed with subscriptions and they're wondering what it is. Well, they're trying, it's a sort of it's a distraction from what they've
Yeah, look
actually.
over here while we're doing something over here.
Yeah. So the attacks are real. I mean, it is amazing the number of things we're seeing out there and the things that they are talking about and that we heard the stories of. I mean, and it's usually that one account that you turned it off. So multi-factor authentication on everything. I know it's annoying. And by the way, just so you know, SMS is not as solid as it should be. So it's not your preferred. Your preferred is an authenticator. Microsoft has one. Google has one. I'm pretty sure there's at least some third-party ones out there. But SMS is better than nothing. Two of them is better than nothing. I mean, how many of you have been forced through the process to reset something and then right at that last thing, it's like, well, I'm sorry, but we have to send you a text message. And you're like, geez, one more step. That could be the step that puts the hacker off.
Yeah, and you know what actually really scares me about the whole thing is the better the hackers get at making people think they're you, the more it looks like, have you ever seen the movies where, someone duplicates themselves and then there's this other person who's got a gun and they're trying to figure out who the copy is, right? And in order to answer that, they always have to answer this question that's deeply personal, right? It's
Mhm.
never like something they want to say. It's always something deeply personal. So always when this happens, when we because we've lost a lot of our privacy and losing our social security number. Let's face it, that's what might have happened. We might have just lost the anonymity of our social security number in perpetuity moving forward. So what's the private thing you're going to ask me for next? And am I going to like it? That's why I was so thrilled with like the way that dual authentication works, where it's like, we're going to give you a code that's going to be connected to you, but it's not in any way private to you. Like you don't care really about it. And it's just going to keep building new codes so that you have something that's in your possession that can prove who you are. And I think that has made me happy, but I'm concerned, man. Like my social security number was my number. If you ask the government who I am my name and that number.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, okay, so what do you need from me, government, to prove I am who I am? And I don't want it to be personal. I don't. I don't want to have to share any more personal information in order to have that happen. And I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen the movies. I just finished watching a movie where everybody is like, duplicating themselves, and you have to figure out who's the right person before you kill the zombie. But like, do you guys agree? This isn't a little deal. This is a huge deal. They've hacked what amounts to our biggest authenticator with the government.
Yeah.
So, John, I fully agree with you. And the interesting thing, though, is, and this I had to do some research just to make sure, but you can actually request a new Social Security. You can get a new social Security number, and it's free. Right? Is that the thing? I don't think it's the thing. In fact, I think this is the time that we actually rethink authentication. We rethink the way that we control our data. Um, oh man, who's the true inventor of the internet? It's not Al Gore.
Tim Berners-Lee.
Tim Berners-Lee.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
Sir, knighted now,
Sir,
Sir Tim
yes.
Berners-Lee came up with this idea, and I know, John, you actually bought
Pods.
into this. You bought the
Pods. Yep.
pods.
I
It is
have
the
one
time
still.
for pods, man. We really have to rethink the access to our information and the way in which that we control our identities and who we are. However, I have a little something, and I'm dropping it in the chat here so that Jonathan can go ahead and put it into the show notes. But by the way, we did come up in our cool session at the AGC IT conference on the affordable solutions to common IT problems. We call it affordable solutions. Have I been pawned.com?
Yeah.
So it's HAVEIBENPWNED.com. You can actually
Yeah.
go to the site, you can put in your email address, and you will find out if you have been sold on the internet.
And please donate. I use that. I am aware of them and have been using them. They are really important. And please, please, please donate. A lot of these things like that are put out there to help us. If you don't donate, man, they don't
They
survive
go
very
away.
long. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think in my head, is there any silver lining to this? And it might be now's the perfect time to max out your credit card and then claim it wasn't you.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me. No, no, no. Actually, what it is just so you guys know, the other thing you can do is all three credit bureaus have to provide you for free with your own access to your credit. So the thing that you need to look for there is, has anyone been requesting credit that you haven't been requesting? As soon as
Yeah.
you see that, you can actually shut down your own credit. You can put a hold on it on all three, which will prevent any loans, any credit cards, any type of that against you. And it's a signifier of personal, your identity's been taken. There are services out there that will help you with that as well that you can go subscribe to. I use Credit Karma myself just to monitor my credit on a regular basis. Anything that happens, Credit Karma sends me an email. I look, I go, yep, I did that yesterday. I'm stoked. Thanks for letting me know. Sometimes it's like, hey, there's some
I rock it.
problem, and I'll go in and look.
Yeah. A lot of times a good like a if you're using a credit card that has points that has some sort of fee, they usually have a service or something like that
Yep.
that's included with it as well.
That's awesome too, Travis. You're right. Most of your credit cards actually have lots of services for that you can sign up for. If you're, I think it was Norton that bought. Remember, there was a company that came out. Oh, it was funny because the CEO put his social security number on the
Oh,
banners,
I think I know
and
that.
then
I know what you're
and then he
yeah.
actually got identity theft. Um, and
Who was that?
it's like Secure Lock or something. I think Norton bought them. But there is a service you can go pay for, and actually, if you pay for the service, then they cover you up to X amount of dollars if they
Oh,
don't catch it.
watch out for those because two of those actually turned into sort of scams themselves. Um, just so you know, I had one of them and they did have lock in the title. I don't want to get sued, but I I went ahead and subscribed and then found that it was impossible to unsubscribe. And I was like, wait, 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 wait. And then I started reading articles, and it's like all of the people that are talking about how to prevent identity theft are like, yeah, and don't use these guys because they actually kind of promote, they kind of steal your identity. It's like, no, you don't have to worry about getting stolen because I own it. It's like, you know, don't steal
Oh
from the
no.
mob.
Yes.
Don't see-
You pay Tony every month, you're okay.
right.
You
It's
okay?
a
Other than
protection
that,
scheme.
you're not going to work. You're not going to work.
All right, boys. Well, we can go down this rabbit hole, and we're 54 minutes in. We thought we were going to be short, boys. But we're not. Why? Because, well, we're dorks and this is what we do. Let's pivot to what are we looking forward to? I mean, we are going into conference season.
Special
Travis, I
one
feel
too.
like you're getting ready too.
I am. I am. I'm ready. I'm getting ready. Like, yeah, it is conference season, and for me this year, see, I'm actually just pulling up my calendar because I've got a lot of travel. So me to kick it off officially for me, and I will go back quick to say I think AGC IT. It wasn't my first conference when I started in construction tech. That would have been the NC or MCAA Tech Conference at that point. But I think that's where I met you, Jeff. I think it was one of the very first conferences I did. It was because it's in Chicago, but so I did have a lot of FOMO on that one. I was on vacation, so I couldn't make it, but that's where I met uh, Benjamin. I met Rick Kahn. I met, just oodles of great people. But so this year, for my first conference, it's going to be the Stratus Innovate slash uh, MCA Fab. So I'll be doing that up in Milwaukee. Uh, really looking forward to that one. I've been up there to see J.M. Brennan. It's a great outfit, great facility. I really like the way the MCA is starting. It has run their Fab conference, and um, they're being very gracious. We at SmackNet are starting our own Fab conference as well. They invite in the next year's host. We go and we do a presentation and to take part of all the festivities. And of course, I get to go see the Stratus buddies then at the beginning of the week.
Ah, the Stratus Innovate. That's going to be a good one. MCAA Fab, always a fantastic one. John, how long have you been going to that?
I think I've been to everyone for the last, for the last decade. It feels, and I actually think it is the last decade. Um, and each time it was different when I was a contractor. When I was a contractor, I came back and I had to have 3 ideas that I was going to take to my shop. That was my goal. Like, you needed 3, and you had to take 3 to your shop because, you know, each of us that goes to conferences, we all have a responsibility to our company to sort of pay back like what they're sending us to. And I have partied really hard at those Fab conferences, but always came back with 3 ideas that could make my boss a lot of money. And I think if I can get paid to party with those people, I'm all about that.
Well, I think that's
If
the
my
key,
company can
right?
make
It's like
money on top of
Yeah.
it,
there's this great blend if you do it right when you're out there. So remember to do it right.
yeah.
Do it
Remember,
right
you're
while
there to
you're out
work
there.
a little
You're
bit.
you are working, but
You're there
enjoy
to work.
it because you're gonna bring back 3 ideas. Like, remember that if you've been sent there, like a lot of us go to the shows and have been going to the shows for other reasons as vendors, right? Remember, I've been a vendor for a very long time and also been a host of them, right? I've been putting them together. So my job is very different. But we coach over and over. Bring 3 things home and let the company know why you were there, and then it's worth it. And it's worth it for you to
Yes.
have a good time with folks. Like, seriously, the dorks wouldn't exist if the conference circuit wasn't a thing.
No, no.
I'm gonna throw a little. So the next week after that is the Construction Leadership Network. I didn't get a chance. I'm not going to get a chance to go this year. John Lehman runs that show. It's a great one. If you don't know what's going on with them, check them out. So that one's going on the next week. Then yours truly is going to be at the CFMA Heartland Conference, keynoting, having a little
Oh,
fun. I love me some Construction Financial Management Association.
I
The
haven't been to
CFMA is
that one yet,
awesome.
but I've heard it's great. I really have heard that the CMFA is. I didn't say that right.
CFMA.
CFMA.
So this is the Heartland Conference. So this is one of their like regionals,
Sure.
but both their regional and their national conferences are awesome. I've been to their national conferences quite a few times, covering it as a host of the content crew. So that's been fun. Um, what else do we have after that? John
Well,
says he's got Stratus
I
and Fab. Got to say hey to the Stratus. By the way, the Stratus swag. I don't have it on. I should have put it on tonight. By the way, Jake, the only thing I figured out about the Stratus swag is the hat and the headphones. It don't go well.
Yeah, that
It
doesn't work
doesn't
so
go
well.
well. The hat looks great, fits great. Love it when I'm wearing it out. Put the headphones on. I look like I have a giant blue head. I'm sorry.
Well, I got an interesting one for you. This is the first year that I've thought of going to ASPE, which is American Society of Plumbing Engineers, not the estimators. ASPE is also the estimators, but there's
ASPE,
them.
yeah, the American
Yeah,
Society of
but
Professional Estimators.
yeah, but back when I was an engineer, I was a member of ASPE. I have the ASPE certifications as a plumbing designer, and I thought of going there. And after the AGC, I think even more because one of the questions we asked is, "Who do you think's the most tech ready of all the people you work with to the GCs?" And they're like, "Oh, the engineers are up there above trade contractors." I'm like, I work for an engineer. I don't remember them being above trade contractors. Have I missed what's gone on over the last, and then I thought about it, over the last 20 years? Yeah, you probably missed something in those last 20 years. So I think, ASPEE's coming up. It's huge. It's a lot of people. I may actually push to go to that one. Um, all of these though, I would be interested to get people's notes. You guys are all going to ones that I'm not going to. Get people's notes on what are the three things that you come back with. By the way, if you're ever at one with me and you ask me, I will give you those three, because I typically have three after the first day and they just change slightly. But I'll give you my three. But also, like if I could get some idea of how AI is discussed in each of them, I think it'd be really helpful, because that's going to be one of the central topics of discussion. And I hate to say it, it's going to be the one that's discussed by people that are all trying to figure it out for themselves. Very much like the YouTube channel, when you're like, hey, how do I put this together? And the YouTube channel guy goes, this is the first time I've ever put this together, but I'm going to record it and send it out to y'all. I
Yep.
feel
So
like
here's
that's
here's a
us
little
with
something
AI
though,
this
John,
year.
on that, and my bad here. I let you guys jump to the future. I'm actually doing one on August 27th, 28th, 29th,
Oh,
30th, and 31st. I'm actually only presenting on the first day, the opening day. We are going to go back and try for the first time in a long time to do the Contact Crew live. So
oh,
it
that's
is
a good
going to
Oh,
be
idea.
me, Nathan Wood,
nice.
and Tanis Laviniak. We're going to be at the ECC, which is the Association for the Capital Projects, Engineering, and Construction Community. This is more, think oil and gas on that side.
Yeah.
And we're actually
Uh,
kicking off the ECC Future Leaders, which is what they open their conference. And it's right here in Colorado at the Broadmoor. I know it's a little late to get in, but it's not sold out if you want. So I'm kicking it off there because John, I saw the same thing. I was like, wait a minute, the engineers are beating us. What am I missing here? But I think this has a lot to do with oil and gas. So, little one to come back there. What else,
a little
Travis? Do you
side note.
have? Yeah.
A little side note. So now that I'm on the association side for the last year, or so we're doing some more outreach. Have you realized that there's an association for pretty much everything, including
Yeah.
an
Yes.
association for associations?
Yes. It's the Association of Associations of Associations.
It's it's just it's funny because we we've talked about, or we've done visits to the AIA. There's building enclosures. There's international roofing. Like it's crazy how many associations there are, and they are all tangentially related. So um, get out there
The
and check them
interesting
out.
thing though is Travis, and this is what I like about MEP, right? Is Nika, SMACNA, and MCAA are kind of leading the way that like, listen, each one of those WIFM is about their members.
Hmm.
But ultimately they realize they're not successful without coming together as a group. And I've actually seen that starting to like go through the rest of the industry because you have so many. You have the walling and ceilings, you have the carpenters, you have, I mean, man, it goes on and on. If you go in depth and like break it out, it's pretty
Oh,
crazy.
it is.
But ultimately, I mean, what I think's cool is how many of them are putting people in the positions like that you're in, Tahir Ali's in, um, Sean McGuire's in, to like say, hey, innovation's a thing. And we can like kind of step out of where we're at and work together as associations to help further the innovation in
Right.
a way that's not, we're not talking about sharing labor relations, we're not talking about sharing a lot of those things, we're talking about sharing on this technology level that, John, it kind of mirrors what we saw out of Benjamin, right? That's what we
Yeah.
need. We need that level of integration. That's how we do business, so
Well,
we should.
Yes, exactly.
we're all hiring out of that technology workforce, and that technology workforce is still relatively new, but we're
Mhm.
all hiring from that same workforce. So, like,
Yep.
as we pull apps into our companies and everything, we need to be talking about that. By the way, I'm excited for your next one. I like Tanis is one of the people that I have consistently found a lot of value in listening to. Um, and she does seem to make, like, for whatever reason, that lady thinks differently than me in all of the funnest ways. Like, every time I get on the phone with her, like, I don't tell her when I get off the phone, but I'm like, I have to look like 19 things up right now. Like, I can't remember what the last thing was. It was like some spin-off of Operating System 5.0 or something. And I was like, oh crap, now I got to read two more books. Because she's very good at sort of looking at what's out there on the landscape of technology and intellectual sort of understanding within an industry and cherry picking the winners. I wish we need like some way to track that on people, because there are certain people, and you know who
Who
they are, Jeff and
I
Travis. I
do.
think you know them too. That are always like, if you ask them what they're interested in, you'll find out that that is the most interesting thing that you could talk about
I
in that
dude,
that
I
space.
remember it learning about advanced work packaging and her
Yes,
being the first person that ever told me what it was, and then broke it down with me, and then broke it down with me, and then all of a sudden the light bulb went off, and I was like, "Wow,
Well,
she
well,
you
got
that's
me on
there.
dark data.
so right."
She
Dark
she's
data,
good at
man.
that, and it's because, and it's I'm trying to phrase this in a way that doesn't sound insulting her. It's like when she explains stuff, she talks to me like I'm an idiot, and
Well,
you
I
know what I
mean, you
mean.
are
Like,
Travis, so
I mean,
I'm
it's
kidding.
I'm calling myself out. I know that I'm an idiot, but she doesn't make you feel like that. But to your
No,
point, Jonathan, like she really breaks it down. She's like and there's
This
I've
is
heard this
taking
kind
nothing
of
away from Nathan or Jeff. We
right.
like them, but like,
Yes.
we just like
no,
Tannis
no,
more.
I have to say, like, the star of that show is Tanis, and you're not kidding. I mean, she went out and did Trillium. I mean, just given the forethought that she's had, and you're right, John. I've sat down with her lots of times and been like, "No, no, no, you're no, oh
Mhm.
crap,
Yeah,
I'm
I know, it's
wrong."
upsetting, isn't it?
It's not a, it's really not actually, because again, like you said, Travis, it's not like she makes me feel like an idiot. She just makes me feel like, you read the wrong book. Like, you
Right.
need to read this book. And you're like, oh my gosh, I do. We're good.
We're
So
good.
wait,
Yep.
what else do we got, guys? I know there's this little company. They made
AU.
a company called Revit. They made a
Yeah.
company
Yeah.
called Revit. No, actually they bought it, but so
Yeah.
there's
AU's in
AU.
the middle of October,
Yep.
right?
In
Um,
sunny San Diego.
in sunny San Diego.
San Diego.
I'm trying to squeeze it in, but I have meetings at the front end and the end of that week. I don't know. Like, it's hard to make it. Everybody loves to go to San Diego, but it's hard to make a 1 or 2 day trip out there in the middle of the week. And
I will say, besides lovely Colorado where I am, it's my second favorite place on the planet. So I would love an excuse to go, but I will not be going this year, as far as I know. I'm not going. John, you doing AU?
I would actually very much like to, but I don't know if I will this year. And I went last time I went. It was when it was in New Orleans, and I'd like to go again. There's some things that I finally start to see Autodesk sort of waking up to and making some moves towards that I really want to see more detail on. Like the like they're I think we all complain about them a little more than is necessarily right, but over the last year in particular, talking to some of the people from there, talking to Pete and some of the other people, it seems like they've started to really say, okay, how do we make this more valuable to you instead of how do we sell this to you? And I think that's a distinction that I didn't see before, but like maybe it's just the conversations I'm having, but like some of the conversations sound like value conversations versus getting you to buy more product. And I really like, I mean, I've seen some other companies do that in the past, and it's always borne good fruit. I'm really hoping, I mean, the ideas behind a lot of what AutoCAD is or Autodesk, sorry. Sorry, Autodesk, you had a really good product that I used for 20 years. It's tough for me to divorce myself from that. But like a lot of their ideas, I think are really in the right spot. And so it was really just about, can your philosophy change from selling a product to providing value? And the conversations I'm having are, we want to provide value. We want to even at AGC, we want to provide value versus we want to sell more product. and
Well,
I like
and
that.
that's the natural maturity of an organization, right? When they're look, they have Autodesk has a lot of lines, right? They don't just
Yep.
deal with
Yep.
construction. They are
Mhm.
not just construction technology. So they're not always firing on all cylinders in our world. But actually, if you look at the number of people from our world, like really truly innovative people that they've hired and brought on board, Allison Scott, Pete Majerski, Dan Smolillo. Sorry if I forgot you out there, but there are so many of those people that they brought in as subject matter experts to really help guide them. I think they've reached that tipping point too, where it's not easy to acquire companies and
No.
then like actually do something with them. It takes time.
Yeah.
And they also have stockholders. Like, listen, stockholders are a thing. So we have to let that happen. So I agree with you. What else
I
do we got?
wanted
Jonathan, what
I
else we got?
I wanted to bring up one other thing because I'm not going to AU necessarily. It is one that I want to go to. If I were to put one above that, it would be Nika. I've gone to Nika for the last couple years,
Ah,
and
it's been
I've
so
come out of
long. Oh, I miss you guys. Tahira, I miss you.
it. And coming out of there, I always come out of there with great information. I always come out of there knowing new people that I needed to know to make next year work. This is the first year where my schedule legit doesn't permit it. It was cut off in 6 different ways, and every time that I tried to say, "Oh well, but I'll make it there for just a," no,
No.
it just didn't work out. So like I'm gonna lean on my friend Mark over at Dyna. I'm gonna lean on Adam over at Miller Electric. I'm gonna lean on these people to give me some feedback because that convention in particular has been actively getting better. Like there are some conventions that actively get better. That one was actively getting better.
That's
I
one last time I was there, Nashville with you, man.
Oh, I almost spent a lot of money the last time we were there because they got some of those, the especially on tools, not on software. I love software, but
Tools.
you know, if I was gonna go buy tools and I'm an electrician, like you want to side by
Yo,
side do the
hit the Nika.
comparisons,
Yep.
that's the place. You got Hilti, you got Trimble, you got DeWalt, you got Miller Electric, you got them all packed into one place, and you
And
can
they're
play them
all
off
giving you
against
the
one
tool. Yep.
another.
They're all
Yeah, it's like who's
We
got a
full
talked
court
Trimble?
about this.
press.
We talked
Yeah,
about this at AGCIT. It's like it's truly a technology petting zoo. Like you get to go put your hands on it. You get to feed the
I want the
machine.
melee. We need to
Yeah.
get them to melee. We need to get them to go out there and fight tool versus tool.
Tool
But yeah,
versus
you're
tool,
right.
baby.
That's what it is, man.
That's awesome. And then what else do we have after that? I know Groundbreak right here in
Ground
beautiful
huge.
Denver,
Yeah.
right here in Denver, Colorado. So I get to go. By the way, just a little heads up. That same person you were talking about, Tanis and I get to go and do our little thing. We're going to talk about AI though. We're going to get down and dirty on AI. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I will be at Groundbreak. Travis, you at Groundbreak this year?
I'm looking at it, and there are two thoughts that popped in my head. First one is we skipped over my convention in
Oh,
October.
that little convent. No, I'm just kidding. I wanted you to highlight it.
Yeah, yeah, which Jeff will be speaking at. But I was going to jump back on the AI thing. That one of the things that to I think it was Jonathan said it earlier when we were asking for the three things. I did look at the Autodesk session schedule. Obviously, there's a lot of AI in there, but some of them are pretty interesting. And from my where I am standpoint, where I am, there's actually a course in there that says something about AI, do I need my person to program CAM anymore? So those
Ah,
kind of sessions and stuff, I would like to hear some feedback from.
mm,
I thought that was kind of
interesting.
interesting, but I would love to go to Groundbreak. I don't know. Again, I'm trying to keep
So
my stupid
I am
calendar
going
up
to
to
be at
date.
SmackNet, and
Yes.
Travis and I, we might be revisiting something fun that hasn't been done in a really long time, and I'm really looking forward to that. And then
To to your
we get
point
to
too,
launch
we're
Fight Club, dude.
yeah, we get to launch Fight Club. We're trying to I think that you were saying with Nika too, like we're trying to reimagine what the conventions are. I think for a lot of conventions, and I'm trying not to throw anybody on the bus or bes- besmirch anybody, but like sometimes it's more about the destination than it is the education, and we're trying to change some of that. and we're reimagining what the SmackNet convention has been.
Yeah, it's really cool. It'll be my first Magna, and we just FYI, there's a Contact Crew Smacna takeover coming. So if you really want to know everything in depth on what's going on at Smacna, you can tune into that episode of the Crew. But a quick aside, Jonathan, we realized this during that episode. It came to me that really it is thanks to Smacna that I am a speaker in this industry and so vocal, because my first talk was filling in for Rob McKinney because he was double booked between a JB Knowledge Roadshow and the SmackNA annual conference in Hawaii. And basically, because I could do his talk while he was in Hawaii, and I got up on stage and did his apps for construction talk and fell in love with speaking, that I do this for a living. So thanks, Macna, for causing that.
It's all our fault.
All your fault, baby. All right, so we got Groundbreak. Anything else we missed? So we missed your big one, but we got Groundbreak coming too. Anything else we've
Um,
missed?
Trimble Dimensions is also in
Oh,
November, I believe.
is
Yep.
Dimensions in November?
I think so.
Okay. Because MCAA Nationals next year, ABC
Right.
Nationals next year, most MEP Innovations is next year. We don't count those. MEP Innovation is the kickoff to the entire year, just so you
Yeah.
guys
Right.
know. Like,
Right.
be there, be square. Just
Yeah,
if
I
you're
always
in the
kind of
MEP world, don't miss it.
right, exactly. When we're talking about conference season for like there's almost like there's a spring and a fall season, right? Like I think the fall season is September, end of August to November. Everybody takes a month or two break, and then we have the spring season that actually kicks off in the middle of winter with
Yep.
with MEP.
Yep. John, did we miss anything?
Um, I can't think of anything offhand that I'm focused on, but I miss a lot of them. I agree with you though. MEP innovation is kind of the big one. Like if you're gonna pick one out of all of them that you want to get the most out of, and you're a trade contractor, it's MEP innovation. If you're a general contractor and you figure a way to get there, get there. Like it's gonna be tough for you,
Buy a
but because
trade
we make it tough for
contractor.
you. But if you're a trade contractor, go.
Yeah.
You need to go. Like
Yeah.
this is each year it's gotten a little more deep. And I have to say, do you feel, Travis, as you know, you're now SmackNA, that there's a little bit of competition going on, and that competition is really healthy with Nika, SmackNA, and MCA to who's going to bring the presenters that are going to have the biggest impact, who's going to bring the crowd that's going to have the most, like, there, that competitive attitude's there in like the most positive of ways, not in a negative way, in the most
Yeah,
positive of
no,
ways. It really is.
I would agree with you there, and it has grown over the years. And you're a perfect example of this. The folks in our positions are totally extroverted, love to be on stage, happy to share with people and shake hands. Right? No, we're kidding. Everybody that does this stuff is an introvert and would rather stay in their cave. Um, but to the point of the competition and the camaraderie that has grown out of it, I think that it is a very friendly thing. Like, each of the associations, not that we jockey for it, but it's like I think we do a pretty good job of curating the content that's like, okay, Nika, you're doing something really cool over there. MCA, out of your technology committee, what do you got going? I mean, we do a really good job of mixing that up, making sure everybody um, gets to highlight, really shine a spotlight on those people that are doing really cool stuff, and that's in this is where I learned this from, and I'm trying to bring it into more what I'm doing, and having actually contractor led sessions. Love our tech friends, love our tech bros out there. They're providing wonderful services to us, but contractors like to learn from contractors, and this is probably the premier event for that.
It's also, man, it's not the echo chamber. You can put out an idea, and the echo you get back might be, no, you're so far off, you're not even
Right.
in the right room. And in a lot of the other conferences,
It
and I'm not cutting on them, but like they're echo chambers. There's some echo chamber there. This one,
well,
there's no echo chamber.
it's funny. It's one of the few
They're
where
right or out.
during the sessions you'll hear you'll hear arguments, you'll hear counter thoughts, and actually, in my opinion, where it really ends up is like in the after hours stuff. You go to certain events, it's kumbaya and ooh, and at MEP, you'll be like, why are they yelling at each other? And you're like, they're not yelling, they're talking. I mean, that's why the construction dorks was born, right? Is because we were yelling at each other over our differences of agreement at an MCA technology event that ended up being one of the impetuses of the MEP innovation. So this is where we can go argue as friends and colleagues, and like we all actually respect one another. And you're right, Travis. What I think is awesome in all of it is how much of this is now led by contractors.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
how much of that. I mean, those are the stories that really make sense. And
And
those are the stories that need to be retold.
And I'm gonna say this instead of Travis and Tahira and Sean and all the leaders at MEP Innovation. When you bring them an idea, the first words out of their mouth is, "Well, what contractors are doing this? Which members? Which of my members are doing this? Because I
Right.
don't. I love you, but I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to my members that are making this work."
Yep.
And that is a difference between that and some of the other conferences. Is that focus on who is actually doing the work with the technology.
All right. And with that, we got to wrap it up, boys. I don't know how many people listen this long, but I just know I've missed you guys, missed being on the microphone with you. And hey, to our boy Trent, I hope you're having a great vacation. We miss you. We'll get you on the next episode, buddy.
Looking forward to it. I'm gonna get back
See you
together
on the
again
road,
soon.
guys. See you on the road.
Hey,
Yeah.
and we'll see you out there on the road. Remember to be safe, be smart. And with that, this is episode 85 signing out.